Well, wait for the live stream to kick in and then say hello to everybody. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Friday. Whoa, what happened yesterday? I mean, what a shock, really. I don't want to kind of, I don't even know what the word is, really, to be honest with you, but I don't want to kind of almost I've never met the Queen. I don't know anything about her really, other than what you see in the media. But what I do know is our culture as a British culture is probably going to change quite drastically because I think she is the anchor of a lot of British culture. So I think a lot of that's going to change. And she was a bit like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but she was a bit like everybody's grandparent. And that's kind of how I didn't see her as a grandparent. I don't want to kind of imply that, but do you know what I mean? It's like somebody there in the background, the person, the matriarch of the family is of the British family, us, was kind of in the background. And I was thinking last night after I got home, how much change will happen because she's passed. So our money's going to change, stamps, um, all of the government offices will change. Um, the culture will change, the vibe of the country a little bit. It's mammoth, really, and I didn't really fully appreciate the big shift. You read about it and you think about it. Oh yeah, yeah. But right now there are organizations in a frenzy to make this changeover. And I saw some stuff on Twitter last night of people doing awful things that were totally insensitive and disrespectful and really bad stuff. And it reminded me, actually, when you look at it, we've got some slimy politicians, we've got lots of problems, but the Queen didn't get involved in all that stuff. She kind of stayed out of it and stayed above a lot of that stuff, which is what they're supposed to do. But I just thought I didn't know what to really post today. So I didn't know whether to post something, not to post something. I didn't want to just pretend it hadn't happened because that could be seen one way. I didn't want to kind of go over the top either and try and make something of it. It was really kind of difficult to know what to do or say. And, I'm not, I never met her, so I don't really have, any connection to her. So I can't be, you know, um, it's just strange, I think, is the thing. It's strange. Good morning, Amit. Good morning, Mike. It's just very, very strange. And if you're watching this and you're not part of a monarchy, um, I don't think I knew how strange this would be. Um, we knew, she wasn't immortal. She couldn't live forever. But I didn't think. It sounds awful. I didn't think it would be such a big thing. I knew it would be a big thing, but I mean the change in the way things have happened, um, and it was interesting. Yesterday, almost like the media, and I don't know whether you spotted this. We saw it yesterday. Um, we saw this yesterday, that almost the media was preparing the public for the announcement. Um, because I'm a bit of a researcher, so I knew about what they call Operation London Bridge. I'd forgotten about the name Operation Unicorn, which is obviously if the Queen dies in Scotland, it's what happens, versus Operation London Bridge is what happens if she dies in London. Um, and you watched the BBC, the change in tone of the BBC, literally went to stock footage. And then the presenters came back on in all their kind of dark black suits, black tie, to see that this whole operation had been planned. And I do think, I know well, I don't know this, but hopefully I'm making sense here. I don't know what the impact on us as individuals will be, other than the personal impact of, if we, if we're a diehard royalist or, anything like that. I don't know what the impact of the change in monarchy will be, but I do know it's going to affect our British culture, because actually she shaped British culture for so long. And actually, in some senses, I feel sorry for Charles, because she is, for pretty much everybody alive, she is our frame of reference of what a monarch is. So we've only known her, even my dad, and he's only known her because he was so young when she came to the throne. He's only known her. So we've got basically the majority, 90 odd % of the population, who've only known the Queen as the monarch. And Charles is going to take over. He's obviously going to be very different, not just because it's male and female, but the Queen had years and years of experience, and she, even though she was very formal when we saw her, we didn't see her, laughing and joking and all that stuff. There was a warmness to her, and maybe that's just me, because she was an older lady, so she had that kind of grandma appearance. But I feel sorry for Charles, because he's, the royal rules, the monarch rules, he took over straight away. I saw some stupid idiot on Twitter going, he could have waited for taking over. And I'm like, are you serious? Do you not know how this works? They were literally having a go at him, because it was like, you're kind of jumping to get the crown so fast. And it was like, that's not how it works. But it's a fool's game to argue with people on Twitter. But I think it will change the country quite a lot. And I don't know, I can't even guess how it will. Obviously, we're going to see the currency, all our notes and coins change, stamps are going to change, all of that kind of stuff's going to happen, but I don't know for him, and this is the sad part. I think she was such a big figure, such a dominant figure, how he sets his own tone, and because it's different, like change. Whenever something changes, there's this period where it's unsettling. Yeah, and it might be very difficult for him to, oh, well, the Queen wasn't like that, and the Queen didn't do that. And that must be really difficult. With somebody who's basically dominated and set the template for what a monarch should be, and then you have to come in and do it in a different way. So I don't really know what the impact is. I don't really know how it will change our culture, but I know it will. I know I don't even know, like, some people in our team here were asking me what happens now, because we had an inkling yesterday afternoon that something wasn't right, because obviously I know about Operation London Bridge. I know the BBC started doing their thing very early in the day, around, I think it was around 2:30. Materialised, the Prime Minister was informed at 4:30 that the Queen had passed. So there was a whole operation going on, but even some of our team in their, young 20s were like, what happens now? And I was like, well, there's a process to go through, but I don't really know how this is going to affect us. I don't know, will it change the day-to-day of running a business or going to work? Probably not. Will it affect the way the country works for a while? Yes. I don't want to be they've already started reproducing the banknotes. So the banknotes will be phased out. They've already started. So basically the new notes will start to be issued probably in the next week or so, 2 weeks. Probably once the funeral's over, the new notes will start to go into circulation and phase themselves out. So I don't know. In one sense, it will affect us in very little and a lot. And this is the kind of crass point that it's an insensitive point, but I wanted to make it is actually in reality for the next 10 days, some of the more pressing things that our country needs to deal with may actually get put on hold for respectful reasons. And I understand that. But, yesterday was the whole action on energy bills that got announced, albeit the detail of it will come in time. But there's other things going on in the country. Ukraine. All of the media is going to be focused on the Queen for good reason. But there's some of those things as well that are going to get kind of buried. And I just hope we don't lose our eye off some of those issues at the same time. So I don't know, and this is so strange for me to say this because I normally have an opinion, but I'm sat here going, I don't know what to post. I don't want to do the whole. This is weird, right? We all know something big's happened, right? But I didn't know her, so I'm not like, oh, I'm going to cry and mourn in that way. But it is sad. So I don't want to kind of do something and pander to people with, I did a little post last night about it and said, she is probably, well, she's the last veteran monarch. The last, I think, I don't think Prince William, King Charles. I don't think it's going to take a long time for us to get used to that. King Charles did serve in the Falklands War, so she's the last serving monarch that served in World War. She served in World War II. So we have got this whole shift, and the one thing I think, I think that we can look at the Queen is she was like the moral standard, and we're in a time when there's not many moral standards, of integrity, dignity, and all the base things that we'd all agree on. She was that standard because we didn't have that from our political leaders. We used to have politicians who actually believed in things. And I think the other thing about the Queen as well, I know this was the rules, but she actually didn't have to share her opinion. And I think for 70 years, sitting as the head of state and not having an opinion or not sharing your opinion publicly is an extraordinary feat of self-discipline. And I think, whatever you make of monarchies or any of that stuff, you look at her actions, the service, the stuff she did, the writing the letters, the responding to things, the going to places, that, all the stuff she did without holding an opinion. Yeah. Without ever being caught. Well, there's a few funny bits every now and then that's come out, which you can go on YouTube, without ever being caught sharing an opinion. I don't know whether you've seen the Crown series, but there's a great moment where a burglar burgles Buckingham Palace and sits in her bedroom, and she talks to the person. It's crazy the way she lived her life in that way. I mean, we didn't see all of it. We don't know what she was like inside Buckingham Palace, but we know a lot about her. And I'm like, as a human being, she was the gold standard. She was the gold standard of how we should be, in terms of honesty, integrity, dignity, morality, all of that stuff that, I don't know anything about Charles either, by the way, other than what you see in, videos and stuff. But I think it's going to be a tough gig for him to carry on from her because she has set the standard. And when I got up this morning, I'm committed to posting every day. I was like, I am. How do you can't just go, hey, let's talk about social media or growing your business again. You can't just ignore it. And likewise, I can't come on and, tell people, how absolutely, well, I'm not devastated. I don't want to be insensitive, but do you know what I mean? I didn't know her that well, but I can respect the fact that she was a big figure, a big influence on our culture. Um, I think she's one of the moral kind of standards of the country, which, let's be honest, around the world right now, we don't have any good moral standard people, and one of the greatest just died. So I think, I didn't want to just ignore it. I didn't want to just try and acknowledge it into like, some cheesy post that was just put up for the sake of it. So I thought, well, I'll just tell you what I think. I think that's the easiest way to do it. I am interested to see, Charles is going to address the country tonight. That again is going to be a very difficult. I mean, I know what I was like when my mum died. Yeah, and I know the royals are trained to like, um, restrain themselves. And he will have had that training for years, to hold back things, and all that kind of training will kick in. But imagine that, right? Imagine it. Your mother's just died. You've automatically taken over, so you've got a whole load of duties to fulfill. You've got a country that that's non-stop talking about it. Yeah. And now you're going to go in front of a camera and try and bring some message to millions of people about your mother, and also, try and acknowledge that she's passed, and also provide, it's his first presentation to the country. So there's a lot of pressure on him to do a good job for him, as the monarch, but also he's a son. And I can remember when my mum died, it was like, there was this like, underlying emotion that was kind of like, breathe, breathe. And I don't envy him at all, the thing that he's got to do. And I think he's got a very difficult, role to fulfill, really. Yeah, national anthems already changed. The national anthem's already changed. All the post boxes will eventually be changed. Police uniforms will be changed. Everything's got to change, and it's all got to be done pretty quick. I think the post boxes are probably the least priority, but everything else is like happening now. So I think it is going to have a big impact. Not just like a symbolic, okay, there's 10 days, we move on. I think culturally it is going to change the way this country is perceived. I think it will change the way we perceive the country. And I don't know whether that's good or bad. But it is obviously a big shift. And actually, when you think about this, we are witnessing history being made, because I was taught about Queen Victoria in school, and in generations to come, they're going to be taught about Queen Elizabeth, because I think she was the longest reigning monarch. There was a tie between her and Queen Victoria, but should have checked this before I came on. I think she passed Queen Victoria. But yeah, it's a big, big old change. And it seems like actually the 2020s are the period of big shifts. If you look at the way our society's changed because of COVID, in the UK, the changing of the monarch, all of these things, the 2020s seem to be the decade of upheaval. And we're only 2 years in, or 2.5 years in, nearly 3 years in, nearly approaching the third year in anyway. It seems to be the decade of upheaval. We've had COVID, we've got war in Europe, we've got the passing of a monarch, the mammoth shifts we've had in two and a bit years, nearly 3 years. So yeah, it's Friday. I didn't want to ignore it. I didn't want to try and pander to it and look like I'm just going through the motions. I'm just telling you what I think, what I feel. I think she was an amazing lady. She will be massively missed by the country. And she's got very big shoes to fill, and I feel sorry for Charles having to try and fill them. But yeah, guys, I don't know what you think about this, how it's affected you. I'd love to know, because I'm kind of clueless at the moment as to how, I know the facts of it, but I don't know the implications, if you know what I mean. So I'd love to know what you think's going to happen, how you're, how you've been not affected by it, but you know what I mean. If you've met her, what was she like? All of that would be interesting to know. Anyway, what do I say? I don't say have a good day. Get the best out of Friday. I don't know what to say. I don't know, be insensitive. It's so tricky, this, because anyway,